Hello you guys, so for today's speed art commentary discussion, it's gonna be a little autism and employment issue diaries, or whatever I decide to title this video. So I am going to be reading off of a blog post that I wrote. Sometimes it is easier for me to follow along with my blog posts, since sometimes I put more information on there. Alright, so I have been struggling with finding a job for a while now, and in 2017 I tried a program that I thought would help me look for a job. My initial impression of this program is that they helped you find a job based on what your strengths are. They placed you according to your strengths and not according to your weaknesses. Meaning they look at your weaknesses, look at your strengths, and see what job may fit you better. That's what I thought that they did. But it turned out it was more for people with disabilities who are ready to go back to work. At least that's how I thought it was. You know how sometimes you could get sick or hurt and you can't work anymore, and then you get better years later and then you want to go back to work, and you're going to forget a lot of things, because let's just say you were sick for 20 years. That is a long time. I'm quite sure you will have forgotten some things. So it seemed like that's what the program is for, and I kind of go over it in the blog post. And then I said in the blog how the program turned out to be useless and stressful, and that I drew a conclusion that they don't help with employment. Alright. And what I think caused me to not get placed properly, assuming they even help autistic adults, as I say, if they did, the counselor that I was given refused to believe I'm autistic, and she refused to understand the obstacles I would face on the job. And I feel that caused me to not get placed properly, because she probably didn't lock in the right thing. Like if she had to submit a ticket, to submit an application or whatever, to see whether or not I qualify for services. So the wrong thing could have been recorded. Like I needed a job that didn't have a lot of people, that's not fast paced, where I can go at my own pace or work remotely if I need to. And she probably locked in something different. I don't know what that could be. I met with the coach privately before the first meeting, and I thought right then and there she was using that information that I told her to keep in mind throughout the program so she would know. Boy, I was wrong with a capital freaking W. The one thing about mental illness is that it makes your short-term memory poor. So evidently I missed when the coach said that we had to apply for jobs. There was a lot of information that I missed. And a lot of people on the autism spectrum have trouble processing a lot of verbal information. I think that also played a role. Again, because the counselor refused to believe I'm autistic, the coach wasn't able to make the proper arrangements before I came. It would have been better if she had gave me a paper with bullet points in regards to what the goal of this program is, than just explaining and explaining, because it's hard to process all that verbal information. And the one thing that I noticed is that whenever people didn't fill out enough applications, she would say, you need to be committed. So to her, not applying for jobs means you are not committed, when in reality, maybe there were no openings that week. Because you can't apply for a job if there are no openings, if that makes sense. And another thing is that you're working with people with disabilities who have limitations compared to someone who doesn't have a disability. And whenever I didn't send out enough applications, the coach will apply nonstop pressure to me, whether you need to commit and all that stuff. The reason I say it's pressure, look at it from this perspective. Pretend I had arthritis. Alright, pretend I had arthritis, and I cannot do any retail or fast food because I won't be able to work as fast compared to someone else without getting joint pains. I won't be able to unload trucks without a problem. I won't be able to stock shelves efficiently without problems, or walk around from one part of the store to another without having pain. Or if I have to walk for a certain distance, I need a walker or something, or a wheelchair, because the joint pain is just too unbearable. So I couldn't do retail and fast food for those reasons, and I needed help finding something else. And this coach is like, oh, you need to commit, instead of actually trying to do something that's helpful to help me find a job. And what she doesn't understand is that it was coming around the holidays, and a lot of companies have who they want by, I would say, Halloween or the first week of November. They usually have who they want. Sometimes they have who they want a lot earlier. It just depends on the company and how busy they are around the holidays. I felt that if this was a program to help disabled people with a job, then maybe they would have put up a list of companies that had the right adjustments, or maybe even hooked you up with remote jobs with companies that allow you to work from home, because some people with disabilities, transportation can be an issue for them. That's what I felt, is that the pressure was not helping me. Like, I was struggling as it is to find something, and this coach constantly on my back because I wasn't applying fast enough did not help. To me, a program won't get you anywhere as long as the problem is still there, and that is that the workforce is inaccessible to people with disabilities, especially folks with autism. And it all boils down to the counselor refusing to believe I'm autistic and not wanting to listen and understand my challenges. And I feel this resulted in me being placed in the wrong group, because I was placed in a group with people who already had jobs previously. So how can I get help when my issue is totally different from everybody else in the room? And one thing that I noticed that should have been a telltale sign that this program will do nothing is that all they ever did was job interviews. So that should also told me that this program wasn't going to help me, because I can't even find a job. I should focus on that first and then interviews. So that told me it was for people who are ready to go back to work. Because if you've worked before, you don't need to learn how to do a resume or a cover letter. The way I see it, it was like picking out the saddle before you get the horse. You don't know what the horse is going to look like, how big the horse is, etc. And you can get a saddle that's too small or too big. Had you wait till you seen the horse, then they would have told you the type of saddle to get. That's the way I see this. They're just doing interviews. How is that going to help me, a person who's never had a job? Let alone someone who can't even find a job and get an interview, if you understand. Now, it just looked like the coach and that counselor just had no understanding of how hard it is to look for a job when you have any sort of disability. I'm thinking to myself, that information I gave you at the start when we met in private, what did you do with it? Because I thought you were going to use that so you would have a better idea of what you're dealing with. And the pressure was just not helping me, because if you're supposed to be a disability coach, then it should be basic knowledge that there are a lot of barriers when it comes to people with disabilities trying to find a job or hold down that job. Like the example I gave you earlier, like a person with arthritis, they need help finding a job because they can't stock shelves as fast as someone else, or be on their feet several hours a day against someone else. But you can check out more information on the blog post that I'm gonna link, because I usually write blog posts because I don't want my videos to be too long. If I were to do word for word everything that happened to the T, my stuff will be way too long, and I don't want that. But we will never fix the problem if it's still there. Like if the workplace is still inaccessible. Like if that program wasn't going to do anything, like be networked with your managers, and you had to apply within those companies, and they grab a contract saying you're prohibited from discriminating against this person, you're prohibited from firing them, cutting their hours because of their disability, and so on. And so this provides something constructive. This is my advice for programs that I feel will help people with disabilities, especially folks on the autism spectrum. 1, ask them what job is ideal for them. Because this is what this program did. I feel as though their evaluation is based off of what they think rather than what I think, because the assessment they did was not an accurate representation to get understanding of the job that I can do. Kind of brew up a survey with scenarios from a job, maybe 5 scenarios from retail fast food, 5 scenarios from this, 5 scenarios from that, and be like, judge based on what they would know in that situation. And obviously, if they don't know or score poorly in that category, like, oh, would be able to stand for long hours and such, then you know that job isn't right for them. Be like, well, tell us what job do you think would fit you, and listen to them, take notes, train them for that job, or whatever you got to do. Another thing they should is hire some actually autistic counselors, because that is the number one reason why I was misplaced. You saw the counselor refused to believe I'm autistic, right? And the coach didn't understand that autistic employment issues are a little bit different than someone else's. That was the number one thing that caused me so much stress. Get some actually autistic staff on there who understands the obstacles that autistics face. Yeah, people with disabilities have obstacles, but ours is different. Like the guy in a wheelchair, his obstacles could be finding a building that he can get into. What good is applying for the job if it's on the 2nd floor and there's no elevator? Versus us, where our neural differences are not accepted and they get in the way, and the employer doesn't want to make the adjustments for us to do the job. So that's why I think that you need somebody that understands each group's employment struggles, if you get what I'm putting at. And another thing is, like, this program, you had to stay there to get hired. Get rid of that rule, throw it in the garbage, burn it. Because you should know that it's hard for disabled people to get jobs, and they're supposed to set up camp at the program. If they're just unable to get hired, just get rid of it. Or better yet, if they're unable to land employment this amount of time, close their case, move on to something else, or say hey, or come up with something. But expecting them to be there till they get hired is not a smart rule, if you ask me. And that's my critique for what I think will make a program actually help me, at least. But everybody's different. You can drop your critique in the comments as to what you think a program should implement to make it easier for you, to help you out. So that's all I got for this video. And also, I'm gonna mix in some autism mental health videos as part of my off-topic discussion, and I've split it into 2 channels. That just helps me get the content out more efficiently. So if I record a video today, it's not June of next year when it's go up. At most, it goes up after a few weeks or sometime within the next month. So that's all I want to say, and I'll catch you in the next video.